Hi, I'm Adrienne Pasquarelli, Special Projects Editor and Senior Reporter at Ad Age, and welcome to another edition of the Marketer's Brief Podcast, our weekly discussion about marketing news and trends that have the industry buzzing. Few retail categories have more competition than footwear, and now much of the sector is dealing with increased costs from tariffs on the countries where they manufacture, like China. Today, we'll be talking with Paul Nugent, Chief Marketing Officer of HeyDude, the footwear brand owned by Crocs. He'll discuss how the brand is using marketing to try to attract younger shoppers, the impact of the tariffs, and a recent Sydney Sweeney campaign. Now here's my conversation with Paul. Hi, Paul. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Adrian. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
So let's begin by talking a little bit about what HeyDude is and its point of differentiation. So it's owned by Crocs, but it's not the same as Crocs at all.
No, not at all. I mean, we're very unique in many ways. We like to describe ourselves as being unlike anything, which is great because we believe our shoes, in some ways, can't even be classified. The wearing occasions from the consumer, how they're used, is really unique. But Crocs is our big sister. They're a phenomenal brand, and when they purchased the brand, they really allowed HeyDude to take on, I'd say, the marketing playbook to engage with consumers in really cool and interesting ways. And we've learned a ton. Even in the time I've been there, we've learned a lot, and we continue to do that. So it's great being part of the Crocs family, but HeyDude very much is its own brand.
You mentioned unique use cases. Tell me about that. That sounds juicy.
But I think, to be fair to Crocs, I think they've in many ways influenced marketing in incredible ways in recent times, and how they engage with the consumer consistently through whether it be their collaborations, their unique storytelling. They've really become a global democratic brand in a way which many in marketing have taken, I'd say, note from, and in some ways are starting to copy some of their practices. So being part of that Inc. system has been fantastic for HeyDude. And that said, we're a very different brand, so we don't just take the playbook and run. We have our own ways of executing our stories and how we want to, connect with our own consumers. But Crocs are a phenomenon, I think, in recent times, and HeyDude has learned a lot from that, and we'll continue to do that as we go forward because there's a lot of practices internally that we can learn from each other, which is great.
And when was HeyDude founded and then bought by Crocs?
So HeyDude was founded, I'll have to get the exact date for you, so that's something that we can come back to, but it was founded by two gentlemen from Italy, and they founded the brand in many ways to take Americana to Europe. And what happened was the brand actually started to gain incredible resonance back in the US, certainly in the South and the Midwest. So it started to get this really organic following and community, which was great. And then Crocs purchased the brand 3 years ago. So in some ways, you could argue that it's still in startup mode as a brand. And I describe it as the best kept secret in the footwear industry. We're, a plus $800 million business in North America, and we've got a phenomenal community, yet our brand awareness is still pretty low considering. So a lot of work to be done, but we're on a great path to achieve that.
Do you own any of your own stores, or are there plans to have any of those?
Yeah, we've got a fairly extensive retail fleet across the country. We're also starting to operate significantly in other markets around the world, particularly in the UK, mainland Europe. We opened up India recently as well. So retail and stores are a big part of that plan. But we operate across all channels, and wholesale is incredibly important to us in the US, and obviously our digital business is significant. But I think what you'll find with HeyDude is we show up in all the places where our consumer expects us to see. So, the big malls, and we create a very commercial experience for our consumers to enable to engage with our brand quickly. Because what we do know with HeyDude is when people buy the brand, and buy our footwear, they buy lots of pairs. So on average, a HeyDude consumer can have anything up to 6 to 7 pairs of HeyDudes, which is pretty incredible.
What? Why? Why do they need so many? Is it a seasonal? Is it colorway? Why would someone need so many?
It's this really kind of strange thing. I mean, before I joined the brand, I hadn't worn HeyDudes at all. And I remember the first time I placed them on, and what I kind of call it as the dude moment, where you go, wow, this feels different. They're so lightweight, they're so comfortable, so versatile. And you kind of don't look back. And I can imagine that when people started to adopt the brand in the early days, it just became a very easy, versatile go-to shoe that people were able to adopt. And then what happened very quickly is it became a shoe for the family. So we see incredible penetration throughout all age groups and family, mom, dad, son, daughter. And that really then leads into moments in culture in the calendar. So holiday, for example, is a massive Hey Dude moment. We have a huge full family moment where people buy Hey Dudes, they celebrate together the festivities in the different colors and patterns that we have for the season. And it's a lot of fun. And I think that's what a lot of people find with the product is we don't take ourselves seriously as a brand or as a product, but we are very, very proud of what we have achieved and what we do. And then when people try the brand, they often don't look back. So I think, we're very good at bringing seasonal colors, different kind of options, whether that be through collaborations or in line. So there is a lot of opportunity and I'd say choice for people to kind of buy into. So they keep coming back, which is great because we love it.
Now, you mentioned the aha moment when you first tried your first pair on. How many pairs do you have now?
I've got way too many than my wife would like me to have it upstairs, to be honest. But I think I'm on about 15 pairs at the moment. And that goes across all different wearing occasions. So I've got a boot, which I wore a lot, obviously, when we had the terrible weather at the end of last year, beginning of this year. I have, the classic Wally, which is fantastic. I have a style called the Paul, which is a little bit more of a dress shoe. And we also have some sneaker options, which I've been wearing too. I haven't quite been brave enough to wear our slipper, but a lot of our community, male and female, got after the slipper in a really big way at the end of last year when we did the Sydney Sweeney launch with the slipper. So maybe that's one for me to get into as we get into the later part of this year.
Now, who would you say is your target consumer? You mentioned a lot about families and kind of this everyman appeal. Is that the case, or are you trying to pinpoint a target customer right now as you think about marketing?
So we're definitely a democratic brand. So we're a brand for anyone who wants to be part, of our journey. And I'd say there's an attitude to what we've described our dude and in terms of a mindset and approach to life and how our dudes go through life, which is important. But I do think it's important to note the community that built this brand. There was a lot of people who organically, as I mentioned, started to adopt Hey Dude in a way. Just now to give you an example, we're at the Texas Houston Rodeo Show down in Texas, and we've broken last year's records of sales like incredibly. So when people go to these moments, they see, Hey Dude, it's an authentic moment for the brand. So we do know where our communities are, and we really want to continue to engage with them. But we also know that we need to grow the brand and we need to be aspirational. So we've definitely had a concerted effort to win with the younger consumer, especially young females, because we know that, youth female culture drives culture largely these days. So that's an important kind of strategy for us and something that we've stepped into heavily, which some people may have seen through our Sydney Sweeney partnership and some recent launches around the Austin Lift that we had. So that's clearly a focus point for the brand as we move throughout 25 and into next year, but absolutely retaining our connection with our authentic community, which is really, really important to us. The people who love Hey Dude and have loved Hey Dude for years are very, very passionate, and we're very, very proud to have them as part of our brand.
I definitely want to unpack some of the Sydney Sweeney work that you've done in a little bit. I know there was a recent campaign as well. But I wanted to first talk about some of the brand struggles that Hey Dude has had with flat revenue and really just not reaching the same level of growth that Crocs has seen. What would you say has been the reason for those struggles, and how is marketing helping to lead a turnaround?
Well, I mentioned that Hey Dude had kind of built an organic brand. And I think there was a moment before Crocs purchased the brand where it had a real moment in the sun where it was highly distributed. There was a lot of pairs kind of going through our partners who are partners today. I think what we've done, or certainly since Crocs owned the brand and since I joined the brand, we started to build a brand personality. It was very much a product conversation. And whilst our product is amazing and we do believe that it gives a unique experience, we have to tell people a bit more about what this brand represents, the personality, the fun, and our approach to life. And I think that's a big part of what we are doing. And what we've already seen is, to go on a journey and to build a brand, you have to kind of course correct. And the business has definitely been doing that. We've worked tremendously hard as a whole company in the last 2 years to do that. And we're starting to see, really positive signs for the future that that strategy is working. And that'll continue, and we'll continue to double down on our plan because ultimately brand will win. And the more we can build a brand, the more differentiation we will create in a very cluttered market, right? Footwear is a difficult space to play, but we're very excited to see how so many new players start to come into the market to challenge the traditional big footwear brands. And we believe there's great space for us to continue that as well because we have a fairly unique story to tell.
Let's talk about some of the marketing that you've been doing to reach these consumers and build awareness. The one I was thinking of was the Fashion Crisis Hotline campaign with Sydney Sweeney that I think came out earlier this year, very recently. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was actually the last couple of weeks. So that was a big one for us. As I mentioned, we really want to connect with kind of young females in an credible, authentic way. And that was a moment in that journey. It kind of started last year with when we launched and announced Sydney last September. And then it continued with the slipper. And then this was the big moment to really kind of do, I would say, full integrated campaign for her. And it was great. So we had lots of layers and levers to it. We used AI. We had an in-life real experience at Grand Central Station in New York with a huge, big, oversized pink telephone, which was a great attraction for people, which allowed us to generate content to use through our social channels. We had a hotline where actually we had about 300 calls in the first 30 minutes of people leaving messages. It was kind of crazy. Everything from people asking for Sydney to help with their summer choices of footwear to some people asking about whether she'd be available to attend different events, which is kind of funny. But the beauty of it was absolutely centered around a product, which is our Austin Lift, but it was so much more than that. It was about setting a tone. It also enabled us to bring in other parts of our ecosystem. We have a ongoing partnership with Barstool Sports, where we're the official comfort shoe provider to Barstool Sports, and a couple of their podcast hosts, Mooby and Smelly, were also part of the content. So we were able to mix our worlds, which allowed us to get a much broader storytelling opportunity from our own channels, but very much into other channels in an authentic, organic way. So that worked really well. And it also then, we had a lot of style-led imagery with Sydney and some of our other assets that we used, which started to show really how HeyDude as a brand, but specifically the Austin Lift, can authentically show up in style-led fits. And I think that was a big thing for us, is to really start to reimagine in the consumer's mind what's possible with this very quirky, I'd say authentic lightweight footwear brand, which is, doing unbelievable things, but still has some way to go with certain communities to make sure that we feel authentic and relevant to their worlds. And that was a big part of the Fashion Crisis Hotline. And as I say, I don't like to think of these things as huge, big campaign moments. I like to think of them as moments on a journey. And that was a really big, important milestone on our journey to really win with that youth female consumer.
Yeah, it feels like that was a big takeaway from the campaign was kind of restructuring those existing notions around styles and style possibilities.
Yeah, we have such an elastic brand in the sense that we can stretch into lots of different places. You'll see our products show up, on the coast, in the Midwest, in the South, in New York. And I think there's a real sense of the brand, which is we don't like to think of ourselves as being pigeonholed or put in any box. We can go anywhere. And the Fashion Crisis Hotline was really showing what's possible from a style perspective. Now, the other side of that is it really leaned into our personality. I've got to say, we've got an incredible internal creative and social team who work together. That was all created in-house. None of that was built with an agency. We did have some agency support when it came to some of the AI tools that we use, which is great. But we have people on my team, which I'm lucky to have, who are so authentically connected to that consumer that we're able to lean into that culture in a very authentic way and have a lot of fun with it. So a lot of the content that you've seen in the Fashion Crisis Center was built and created and written by our teams, and also with Sydney, because she wanted to play a role in that, which was great because when you have an asset and ambassador who's an authentic part of the content, then it really helps to make it feel powerful.
What was the specific AI content that you guys had as part of that campaign?
So the first kind of tease content that you might have seen on our social was this huge pink telephone where it kind of rung off the hook. And then there was a Sydney message at the end, and it was a tease to the hotline. So that was the first thing that people saw. And then we followed that up with the actual in real life moment at Grand Central Station. So it was just a great way to get ahead of the actual moment at the station with some AI content, which was fantastic and was really well received on social.
You mentioned how everything was created in-house. Do you guys ever work with external creative agencies?
Yes, we do. We work with agencies for different projects all over the world and especially in the US, but now in the UK as well, across all different disciplines. We have a PR agency. We obviously work with media agency, but creatively we will work with freelance, but also work with agencies on projects. So we're very open to what is the idea, and with the best idea will win, regardless of where it comes from. I'm just very fortunate that we have some fantastic people in my team who come up with great ideas all the time. And the one thing about HeyDude, I've been with the brand just under a year, and I think we've done more in 12 months than most brands do in 2 to 3 years in terms of velocity of storytelling. And I'm very proud of the team that have been able to do that. And a lot of that comes from them. So we do work with agencies, but we work with agencies as partners, and I think that's really important.
Let's talk a little bit about your brand collaborations. I know you have a new collab out with Jelly Roll. Can you
Yeah.
talk about how you choose collaborators and kind of what goes into that when you think about the brand?
I mean, we've been on a journey for HeyDude when it comes to collaborations. As I mentioned, when the brand was purchased by Crocs, there was an opportunity to use a lot of the Crocs portfolio for HeyDude where it made sense, which was great because it's a much easier access point. As the brand started to gain traction, the interest in the brand has become vast, and we get a lot of people now proactively approaching us. I do think it's important, though, that we have to, be clear that the story has to make sense. And Jelly Roll is a great example where, there's nobody probably who's as popular with our core community as Jelly Roll. He's fantastic. He is loved in the part of the country where Hey Dude is loved, and his fans are fans of the brand. So he knew that, and that was a very natural conversation. And it's been great. I mean, we had our first launch in the last year, which sold out in less than 60 seconds. And then we had our launch yesterday, which actually pretty much sold out in the day. So a lot of people love Jelly Roll. A lot of people love Hey Dude. And when that comes together, we've started to see the results. But it goes beyond that. Jelly also adds a lot to the community. And I think, we were really keen on that. And he was pleased that we were able to support him in some of those areas as well. So it goes beyond just a collaboration and a name on a shoe. There's a lot more behind it, and it's very intentional.
I wanted to ask you, kind of switching gears a bit, about tariffs, obviously one of the big topics of the moment. Executives at Crocs recently talked about the profit impacts from these increases. I was wondering how you're thinking about it or handling it at HeyDude, and if you anticipate having to have higher prices for the shoes, or how that might affect you at all.
So this is obviously an ongoing situation, and it's everyone I speak to. We're having meetings with our retail partners, and it's something everybody wants to talk about. I would say we're very close to it at an ink level. So it's again another benefit for Hey Dude is to be part of the Crocs Inc. business, because this is the shared opportunities also become shared problems. And the team, certainly Andrew and the executive team are all over this, and there's no decisions to be made at this point because no one's got all the information to make any decisions. What I would say is, Hey Dude has built its business on being an accessible, affordable brand. And that's really important to us and to our consumers. And that will be something that we will continue to strive to achieve, regardless of the macroeconomic situations. But as things progress, that's the true value to us. So we know what our consumers need from us, and we know what we need to provide to them. And I think we've done that consistently, and we'll continue to do that. That'll definitely be our aim.
Well, we're almost out of time, but I was wondering if you could just fill us in on what else we can expect to see from Hey Dude this spring.
No, listen, there's a lot going on, and spring and summer become really the big moments for Hey Dude in terms of everyone's getting out there and enjoying the weather, and there's no better time to wear your Hey Dudes than then. I think as we get into the later parts of the year, the big cultural moments, be that back to school, and then the holiday season, as I mentioned, are going to be massive. We have another jelly launch coming later in the year, which is going to be exciting. We're always got our collaborations and partnerships which will be coming out. We've got a number of them to come this year. And we'll continue to drop amazing products for both him and her through our line, which is going to be exciting for the brand. So I do think the evolution of the brand, how we're going to continue to let people know who we are. As I mentioned earlier, we do have to build our awareness. We've got opportunities to grow that, and we're going to be very disruptive, have some fun, but most importantly, I think demonstrate to people why we are unlike anything and how, and why people, when they have that first moment of trying our shoe, will never look back, because that's something I'm going to have to get you to make sure that you get a pair as well, so you can come back and confirm that that's the truth, because I went through that experience and it was amazing. That's the mission. The mission is just to get as many people as possible trying this product, understanding this brand, because we want to bring kind of lightness to people's lives, and we're there to fuel their enjoyment and fun, and that's what we want to do.
Great. Well, Paul, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
That was Paul Nugent, Chief Marketing Officer of HeyDude, and I'm Adrienne Pasquarelli, Special Projects Editor and Senior Reporter at Ad Age. I'd like to thank our producer, Lauren Chiario, and invite you to subscribe to the Marketer's Brief podcast on your favorite player. We promise to keep it brief, or at least short enough for your morning coffee. Thanks for tuning in.
Marketer's Brief listeners get $40 off an adage.com subscription. Sharpen your marketing edge and visit adage.com/brief for your discount.